Woo, woo, woo. What it do, what it does, what it did. I bet you didn't miss that. Welcome into the Big Hit. We have a star-studded episode today. We have Tristen Borland with another exclusive IUP athlete interview. Stay tuned to find out who the defending champion might just be. And then we talk NFL, MLB in the World Series. Sit down, shut up, drink a beer.
Thank you for tuning into The Big Hit. My name is Tristen Borland, and with me is IUP men's hockey captain Dominick Glavich. John, seriously, thank you so much for joining us today. With all that's been going on with COVID and whatnot, we really appreciate you being able to come down to the studio and talking with us today.
It's a pleasure to have you.
No,
thank you.
So Dom, every great story starts somewhere. So what about yours? Why hockey and why IUP of all places?
I grew up, my dad started me at hockey at a young age. I started skating when I was just 2.5 and just fell in love with the game ever since. And IUP, I'm a hometown kid, and I've always loved Indiana, and it couldn't have been the better place to go.
I was going to say, is your dad involved with ice hockey as well?
Yes, he is one of our assistant coaches, but him and I have the relationship where I don't see him as my father on the ice. I see him as just a coach, and everyone else on our team sees that, but some of the parents don't see it that way.
Oh.
They see it as a favoritism, but I don't. I've been playing with so many different coaches that I've grown up to know how to act between being my dad and being a coach.
And along with your dad being a coach, do you ever see that? Like, do the other players treat him as dad? Do the other players treat him as coach because you treat him as coach? Or is there not really much of...
I feel like everyone on our team has a huge respect for my dad just because he's my dad and he's our coach. I know the other guys in the other room have a huge respect for him. They love him. They said he's by far the best coach I've ever had.
When some people hear the word captain, Dom, and I'm sure that you get this a lot, they think that you're an older player who just gets to wear the captain symbol on their jersey. They don't know what all you have to go through to get to that position. What all tasks are entailed with you being the captain? What are things that you're responsible of?
We have a couple captains. Gavin wears our C. He's our main captain. For a captain in hockey, it's when calls don't go right, you talk to the ref. It's someone to go yell at the ref calmly, but it doesn't go that way. But some of the other roles that the assistant captains have is just being like a leader on and off the ice, showing guys the right direction, and just being like a cool headed person throughout every situation. Don't let your emotions get the best of you.
I was going to say that's incredibly important for hockey because I know it's a very emotional sport. A lot of people get very fired up whenever they play hockey. You see it whenever the gloves get thrown down.
You wear your emotion on your sleeve in hockey.
Absolutely. I noticed there was a certain game that I went to last year. I can't quite remember what team you were playing. I think it was Pittsburgh, but you might correct me on that.
It was at Kent State. It was our autism awareness game. We linked up with a sorority. I can't remember their name at the moment, but we did it for a fundraiser for them and for us just to look for the community. And it turned out to be an extremely big fundraiser for both parties.
I was going to say, so the jerseys those aren't your usual jerseys,
No,
right?
those are our one game only, and most of us auction the jerseys off afterwards. I'm pretty sure everyone that came today auctions our jerseys off.
So was your jersey included in that auction?
Yes. My surgeon actually tried to buy it because his one son is autistic.
Oh, okay.
And I told him to come, and he was there.
That's awesome. So do you know which player's jersey auctioned off for the most money, or do you guys really not keep track of that?
My mom was in charge of it, and ironically, it was mine.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
it was a bit off between my shoulder surgeon and my grandfather for my two little cousins. It was me and Gavin that were the highest two.
And who was the one? Was it the surgeon that won out, or was it?
It was my grandfather.
There you go. Granddad always wins,
Yeah.
all right? I'm sure you know. Was a fantastic year for IUP men's ice hockey. They were a team that was preparing to finish the season with a ACHA Division I national title in Dallas, Texas. And as a national title, that is not a division, that is not the conference, that is in the nation.
We were one of 20 teams that were supposed to go down to Dallas.
One of 20?
I'm pretty sure, you might have to correct me on that.
No, I think you're right on that one. And that was the first time in team history that you guys had that opportunity.
It was a long battle. We didn't start off with the greatest seasons. We had a coaching change mid-season, and second semester came around and we just clicked together and we just figured out a way to win, and we stuck with it the whole way, and we won a championship.
And then COVID happened.
And we can't do anything about it.
How did that feel for you? You fought so hard throughout the season to get to certain heights, and
it was definitely hard. It was a tough pill to swallow, and we're still trying to figure out, like, there was a one-time opportunity to do that, and now we're thinking, oh, we can do it again. We did it last year. And so that's our mindset of, if we get to play this year, we're going to try to repeat it, what we did last year.
Well, what do you think? Do you think that you guys are going to be coming back, or do you think?
I think our league is trying to push for a January start. We're expecting a January start as of right now, but we're just optimistic right now, so we're hoping for the best.
Now, do you know what the guidelines would have to be for you to start up? Do a certain number of schools need to open up, or is that really something that isn't shared amongst the schools right
That
now?
I haven't figured out, or the league hasn't put out to us yet. So it's still a gray area question.
So you guys were able to win that championship. How did that feel to raise that cup over your head?
It was with the group of guys. It was a lot. It was very emotional for a lot of us because that was the first like real big thing we've won in our lives and like our hockey career. Like for me, it was by far the best feeling to do it with my best friends and my dad on the bench.
You keep saying your friends and your family and stuff like that. So this is a very close-knit hockey team, right?
That's how hockey is. You come together playing a sport you all loved your entire life, and you build a brothership. And
that's a whole life thing. So you would say that even after hockey, you'd still probably be in contact with most of the guys on the team?
Yes, and like even like my previous teams too. I'm still in contact. Like I have a friend out in Sweden I talk to every day.
Wow, in Sweden, that's awesome. When did you play with a Swedish player?
I played with him in juniors. That's where I met Gavin when I was 15.
Oh, okay. And is that how he got here?
Yes, that's how we both ended up here.
Oh,
He's
okay.
originally from Buffalo.
Okay. That's a bit of a hike.
Yeah.
So, final question, and the big reason I wanted to bring you in here today. Hockey is arguably one of the most electrifying and emotional sports that you can watch in America, arguably. But you don't see it on IUP-TV Sports. You don't see it in the radio station, and I don't see very much of it in the newspaper. So why is that?
The hockey program is we've been around for a while, but we're still a slow and upcoming program. Like every year we have our goal to improve our program a certain way, and this year, since I came in as a freshman, our goal was to win a national championship and be ranked. Supposed to go into nationals just boosted everything for us. Since we're a club sport, I think that's why we don't get advertised through the newspaper and like through the school.
Is that frustrating for you?
A little bit, but at the same time, it leaves us on our own. Like we don't have to worry about other things down the road.
Well, funding, if you guys were able to get a little bit more exposure through.
Yeah, we have a lot of we pay for it ourselves because we're a club, but if we had school funding, it would help us tremendously. Like it would push our program to the next level and continue to grow and become better and better.
Because you guys do a lot of traveling. I've seen the other teams.
We do a lot of traveling. We usually have one long trip a year, and it's usually to Virginia to go play at Liberty University.
I was going to say, are they a pretty good team in your division?
Yeah, it's an out-of-division game, but we just go down there because they're always a top 10 school that we play, and it's always fun to get down there and play the Midnight Madness game.
Wow, okay.
In front of 56,000, or 5,600, excuse me. It's COVID, it's not possible this year.
Things are unfortunate. Folks, we are all out of time for today. Once again, I am Tristen Borland, joined by Dominick Glavich. Dom, thank you again so much for coming down.
It was a pleasure.
I really appreciate you coming down and talking to us and kind of sharing us the IUP men's ice hockey team that we kind of are missing out on, to be honest. So once again, I'm Tristen Borland, and that's all from The Big Hit.
Welcome back into The Big Hit here. Joey Crissman, Jay Taylor. We're talking NFL football. Joey, how have you been feeling about the NFL season thus far?
I want to tell you, it has been weird as heck. Not seeing many fans in the stands, but yet somehow seeing a lot of competition in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I think fans in the stands are hurting a lot of teams more than it's benefiting for sure. I mean, if you look at the New Orleans Saints, I think that's a prime example. Numero uno. But Very competitive, like you said, so games down the line are going to get even more critical. These games are going to have a lot on the line, a lot of playoff implications. We see how tight the division is, how tight divisions are, even the NFC least. You know, it's still, they all suck, but there's still a tight race there. So I think you put together some games here that we're going to discuss that are going to have big matchups down the line, and we're going to discuss why.
Yeah. First matchup is Week 10, Rams versus Seahawks. The reason I chose this one because the Rams and Seahawks are in both the same division. They're both pretty good teams, except Seahawks are 5-0, Rams 4-2 as of right now. And this game is going to come down to the line. I think Rams have a really good offense. The Seahawks not much of a good defense. On the other side, Seahawks have a really good offensive MVP candidate, Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, DK Metcalf, which, by the way, is doing a lot better this year than he did last year because he has a lot more to prove. And then I just think that this game will no doubt have a playoff implication on these two teams.
I agree. This division might be one of the tightest in the NFC. The Cardinals just absolutely wallop the Dallas Cowboys. What's new? As for San Francisco, they're sneaking out wins. They got that sneaky win on Sunday Night Football. San Francisco did, and I think this division's good. You know, they're the NFC champions. Before that, the Rams are the NFC champions, so definitely the Seahawks are the favorite coming out. The Rams, for this matchup specifically, I'm calling this. The Rams are coming off a bye. So they're Week 9 Rams bye, and McVay is a mastermind as a head coach. Pete Carroll, good coach, can win games, but the defense, they're going to have to step up. That is going to be the game where the Seahawks have to prove if they're Super Bowl contenders, because if their defense can't perform coming off McVay and Goff on a bye, then clearly there's something wrong here. But I do want to note that Antonio Brown has been sought interest by the Seattle Seahawks, and he's eligible as of now to play Week 8. You know, you saw videos of him and Russell Wilson practicing this offseason. It was always said he'll fit the culture. Pete Carroll can handle him. They can handle him. Wilson can turn him around. So let's sit here and wait back. I just picked him up on fantasy today. Antonio Brown to the Seahawks. If that happens, game over. That's 100-0.
Listen, Bill Belichick couldn't handle Antonio Brown. What makes you think Pete Carroll's going to?
I think he's a bit removed. He's a bit removed from the antics. Let's hope. Let's hope at least.
I don't really have, I have an opinion, but I'm not going to say it. But I just don't think the Seahawks are going to do that. Mainly because, not only is Antonio Brown a diva, but we don't even know if he's as good as he was. He's been gone from football for about like a year and a half. We just don't know because he hasn't played. So I wouldn't take the chance on him. But moving on, for the next matchup is Week 11, the Ravens versus the Titans. Derrick Henry, the freight train, is barreling his way through the stat sheet. He has been talked about maybe an MVP candidate as a running back. And of course, the Ravens still have Lamar Jackson. Not as good as he was last year, but yet still able to make plays and get his teams a win. 5-1. I think this game, these two are going to really bring it together. They're going to have really a high record. I'm guessing the Titans are maybe going to be like 8-3. Ravens going to be like 9-2. This matchup is definitely going to have playoff implications. Decide who's going to go to the AFC playoffs.
I agree. I think it's a little rematch of last year's playoffs, and again, the Ravens are the same thing you're getting last year. And it's same with the Titans. You're getting the same thing, not necessarily same players or personnel or same circumstances, but the Ravens, they can't go down. They have to keep running the ball. They get away from the run game. When they get away from the run game, they play a little bit sloppy, not as efficient as they can when they're running the ball. And surprisingly enough, though, if you look at Tennessee's side, this is why they won last year. Because if Derrick Henry can't run the ball, which is very, very rare, if Derrick Henry can't run the ball, Tannehill, I don't know why people were sleeping on Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill, if you look at it, he has one of the best passer ratings in the league last year. He finished, I think, with the best passer rating in the NFL last year. He's up there every single year. He's up there in passing efficiency. He's like the 5th most on-target passes this year in the NFL. They have A.J. Brown down the field. Jonnu Smith coming to be a good tight end. I think they have some quick weapons, too. And I think that gives the Titans a little bit of an edge over the Ravens. Ravens defense can step up big games, but we haven't really seen that yet too much. They're holding opponents. Yeah, they're winning games. But we really haven't seen a dominating defense, which we're about to get to right here, I think.
Exactly. Week 12, the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Baltimore Ravens. These two rivals go down in history as one of the nastiest rivalries in the NFL. The Steelers are 5-0. The Ravens are 4-1. These two are powerhouses. this game is going to be a huge one. Not only did the Steelers lose to the Ravens twice last year without Big Ben, but they have him back now. Will that make the Steelers win? I honestly think so. Not just from being a Steelers fan, but it's because, like you said, the Ravens defense has not stepped up in big games. Well, the Steelers' defense has. They completely obliterated the Cleveland Browns' rush offense, which, by the way, was the #1 rushing offense in the league, rushing over 188 yards per game. They allowed 74.
Yeah.
That's insane to me. Even though they lost Nick Chubb, they still had Kareem Hunt, and they still stopped him 4th and 1, which is something I had not seen in the Steelers since the 2008, the year they won the Super Bowl. This game is going to be fantastic.
I agree. Thanksgiving night, Heinz Field. Nothing more electric than that. And I think this game will probably have the biggest implications of who's winning the division, of who's definitely going to be the favorite to win the division. I think you know exactly what you get from the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They are, without a doubt, the most consistent defense in the NFL. If you look at the sack, they led the league in sacks 3 years ago, second 2 years ago, led the league in sacks again a year ago. They lead, that's 3 straight years, you know what you're getting, the best pass rush in the NFL. Now you're getting a run stop defense too. I know Devin Bush just went out, he's out for the season, but that's going to be enough time for Spillane to get practice in there. That if they want to bring Edmonds over there in the linebacker position too and put in Sean Davis, probably a little ballsy of a move there by Mike Tomlin. But I trust Tomlin. Harbaugh, it's going to be a great game. You know, the Mayor Perduto of Pittsburgh was talking. Oh, we'll discuss how many fans we can let in the stadium in October. So now about 5,500 fans are allowed in there. Come November, we don't know what happens with COVID. We don't know what's going to happen with regulations. I think it probably will expand. There'll be a little bit more fans there, turn on the terrible towel. And you bet your sweet ass when Renegade gets playing, you better go running for the hills because it's you and 6 feet under Baltimore. Woo, good luck to you.
Oh, yeah, you got that right. Week 12, another Week 12 matchup, the Bears versus the Packers. Another very stingy rivalry. They had a very long history. Bears have a really good defense with Khalil Mack, but yet the offense of the Packers still has Aaron Rodgers. They still have Devontae Adams, but yet they got their butt kicked by the Buccaneers. Now, the Buccaneers defense is very good, though. I will give them that. And the thing about Aaron Rodgers is what I've seen so far, is that he's a bailer. And the games that he's trailed by at least 1 point, he is a below 500 win percentage. And yet we talk about him as being a Hall of Fame quarterback. Is he? Yes. But is he like a Tom Brady who comes back and plays his butt off just to come back from a 23-point deficit? No, he's not. I think if the Bears can somehow keep that offense off the field and get at least 7 points ahead of the Packers, that game's going to be in the bucket. But I do think that game is going to be a very exciting one.
I agree. I think the Bears, they were, besides a double doink in the playoffs, they were favorites to go to be the NFC champions that season that Los Angeles Rams did it. And the Bears last year, they had no offensive production. The defense was non-existent. It wasn't talked about, obviously, because of that. If your offense is not producing, if they're getting turnover after turnover, you're getting dealt terrible field position, just automatic points, basically, just given by the offense. You're not going to be very good. And this defense has something to prove. You heard Khalil Mack. He's a little pissed off that people weren't talking about him to still continue to be one of the best defensive players in the NFL. He has a chip on his shoulder. As for the Green Bay Packers, in their mind, this is their year. I've been watching Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays on the Pat McAfee show every Tuesday. They've been pumping Rodgers' tires out the wazoo. And I think that Rodgers this year has a different mindset. He thinks that he's going to take them to that next level, and exactly that. Time after time, we saw Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he can make those big comebacks, but at the same time, he has it. If you want a prime example of that, I mean, minus a few blunders, think about the NFC Championship game in Seattle, Green Bay in Seattle. Russell Wilson goes into halftime with a 0.0 passer rating. What does he do? Drop an absolute dime to Jermaine Kearse in overtime to take him to the Super Bowl. I mean, he stepped up in that second half there. I think that's the difference with Rodgers. Rodgers wants to prove himself and prove that the good defense isn't going to beat him this year like they did last year in San Francisco. Big matchup for the Bears and the Packers.
Very big matchup. And for our last matchup, we have a week 15 matchup. This is a 2 matchup. The reason I put this is because these 2 games can affect the outcome of a division and a playoff berth. The Buccaneers versus the Falcons and the Chiefs versus the Saints. The Buccaneers with Tom Brady has been pretty good this year, not going to lie. He's a lot better than I thought he'd be. Tom Brady obviously isn't who he was back in New England, but he is able to make throws. He is able to make plays. Chiefs versus the Saints. Chiefs are still very good. In my opinion, they're still the best team in the AFC. The Saints, not that good this year. They are sitting at a 3-2 record with Drew Brees and Michael Thomas. Chiefs versus Saints. Chiefs, I'm guessing, will probably win this game. And the Buccaneers will beat the Falcons. That'll knock down the Saints and let the Buccaneers sweep in for the division win, giving a playoff berth with Tom Brady as their quarterback. Now, I'm guessing that Buccaneers will probably face the Patriots in the playoffs if they do make it. So either way, these 2 games are going to battle out each other, and I think it'll be an exciting one.
I agree. And when you look at this division from the beginning of the season, I don't think any of us were really thinking as high-powered offense as we really got. I think Teddy Bridgewater has done a very good job as a quarterback in Carolina. I think the Falcons are putting up how many points a game? You see it every time. You have Matt Ryan, Todd Gurley, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst on the same team. That's a pretty high-flying offense. And they're putting up buku amount of points. I think that the Buccaneers, they're coming into their offense. They're getting used to it. I mean, this is the very first time in Tom Brady's storied career that he is not playing the same system that he's used to. It's going to take a pretty decent bit, and you already saw it. Bruce Arians says, "Oh, we're not passing the tight ends. Tight ends that's why we have wide receivers." What do you think Tom Brady said? He came in there and he said, "Listen, I'm throwing the ball to Gronkowski whether you like it or not." And what did he do? Threw the ball to Gronkowski and absolutely shredded up this past Sunday against Green Bay. As for the running game, still solid. The Saints falling off here. So I think the Buccaneers week 15 matchup could surprise you because the Falcons are very capable of putting up points against that good defense, but the Bucs ultimately, like you said, will catch the victory. Chiefs versus Saints. Chiefs, come on, who's beating the Chiefs? I don't think it's the New Orleans Saints at this point. If it is, it's going to be a lucky win, a little bit of a trap game for Kansas City. Kansas City, I can only see them getting better considering they have Le'Veon Bell coming in and Clyde Edwards-Helaire just rushed for 160 freaking yards. So I don't even know what to say about the Chiefs. I can't see anybody beating them any week.
That's it for the matchups. Now we go to Jake's betting advice. He's been making bank this year betting on games. Tell us about it, Jake.
All right, yeah. I mean, gambling's legal in the state of Pennsylvania now. Sports gambling's legal in the state of Pennsylvania, which I'm quite a fan of because in the preseason, apps like FanDuel, I mean, they still do it all season long, but DraftKings, they offer these promos like it's impossible to lose promos. Like, for instance, game 1 of the NFL season, the Chiefs needed to lose by 100 points for you to lose your money. So you bet in 50, you win 50, you take the 50 out, boom, you start with 50. Here's how you bet. You bet smart, and you bet the over. No, I'm just kidding. The over was hitting early in the season. The over is not hitting anymore. This is because injuries come into play. Penalties, they start, I don't want to say referees practice with penalties because they don't really fix the games, but you know it in all sports. Before the game, they say, hey, listen, this team was committing a lot of, say, holding penalties last week that weren't getting called. So let's look at them a little bit extra. Let's look at those players closely today to see if they're holding. And then what do you know? They are. So they're throwing the flags. That's what happens in the middle of the season here in the NFL. So you have to take into consideration that the scores are probably going to be a little bit lower, and teams that you think are going to be good might not be on paper. Because if you're just looking straight at paper and looking straight at the lines, don't do that. You have to take into consideration that these players, this is how I think that I like to look up to Pat McAfee, and he has the similar psychology about the whole situation too. But sports players and athletes, they're human beings. They're going through things right now. So it blew my mind how the Tennessee Titans came out and put that whooping on Buffalo after 2 weeks of just dealing with COVID protocols. Can't practice, can't do this. Like, you're a player, you got to train. These players like to get in routines. These players like to get comfortable. And if you're not doing that, if players are unhappy, say in Dallas, look, anonymous sources telling that the coaches are unprepared. On paper, you're like, holy smokes. Even with Dak Prescott playing, you're like Ezekiel Elliott, Mari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Van Der Esch is coming back. That's huge for the linebacker position there. But then what do you know? Zach Martin gets hurt. He goes down, gets hurt. The O-line's trash at that point. And they're unhappy with the coach. So much goes into it. I think you just have to be able to understand that you're just not betting straight lines, straight paper. You have to understand what these guys, happy humans are better humans playing the football. And I think that has a lot to go into it. It's a little bit more than just sitting back, getting lucky. I think you have to do a little bit more research, especially say if you're. I made the dumb mistake the other day in the Kansas City game, betting the over on the passing yards. Little did I know, it was wet and rainy. It was windy and rainy. So if it's windy, you have to take in the weather. Like, you're not going to be slinging the ball if it's freaking 14 mile per hour winds and raining the whole game. You're going to be running. Bet the over on the run. So it's things like that you have to take into consideration. A little bit of betting advice for myself there. Been making some bread, not a living, not anything special. Hot take, it'll run out one time.
All right, thank you so much for that, Jake. And now we're going to do a little thing called contenders versus pretenders. I'm going to list off some teams. You and I are going to discuss whether or not that team is a contender for the Super Bowl or pretender for the Super Bowl.
Sounds good to me, Joey.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, what do you think?
What do we all think? They're fucking contenders. They're contenders every year. You know the Rooney family. You know Mike Tomlin is putting a product on the field to get that Super Bowl. What do they say? The standard is the standard in Pittsburgh. And that standard is the stairway to 7 for the 7th Lombardi Trophy to go down in the greatest franchise in NFL history. The black and gold. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger is on his comeback tour. He's winning comeback player of the year. You better watch him Super Bowl MVP. He got gypped out of it twice. He's going to win it the 3rd time. 4 appearances, no more Brady in the division. No more Peyton Manning. Guess what? Here comes big freaking Ben Mahomes. Get in your high top chair, strap in to your car seat because it ain't your time, little boy. Big Ben, the big bad monster of the Allegheny, is back. Heinz Field flooded with ketchup. That's real ketchup. You signed with Hunts Mahomes. You don't know what real ketchup is. Big Ben does. He'll slobber all over the ball and let it sling in the end zone to Chase Claypool. Who else you want? Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson. Name them. We got them. Steelers all the way. How about you?
Well, you've had a lot of great points, but my greatest point to me is this Pittsburgh defense. If you take a look at all the Super Bowls the Steelers had, 9, 10, 13, 14, 40, 43, they all had terrific defenses. Not just defenses, but the front 7. Who we got now? TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, Cam Hayward, Tyson Alualu,
Stephon Tuitt.
Stephon Tuitt.
That's all you need. Those are monsters.
Exactly. They are, in my opinion, in my lifetime, the greatest run-stopping defense I have ever seen. And I saw the 08 Steelers. I saw the 2012 Steelers with Palomalu, Joey Porter, James Harrison, Lamar Woodley. I think, honestly, TJ Watt is better than any of them. He's a future Hall of Famer. I'm calling it right now. In about 10 years, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The most sacks in a Steelers season, the most sacks in a Steelers franchise. I'm calling it right now. This Steelers team is one of the best teams I have seen in my life. They're going to the Super Bowl.
All
right, next up. We got the Bears, Chicago Bears, in the division with the Packers. Do we think they're going to the Super Bowl?
I got 3 words. Fook the Bears.
I gotta agree with you too. I mean, honestly, with the Packers in the same division, with Aaron Rodgers playing as he is, there's not really much of a hope for the Chicago Bears to go to the Super Bowl. But however, next up is the Packers, and we can all agree that they're going to win the division. Aaron Rodgers is on fire. He has a great offense. He has a great defense. They're going to the Super. They're not going. They're not going to the Super Bowl, but they're definitely a contender because you never know, things can change. But up next is the Buccaneers, also in the NFC with Tom Brady, with the defense playing as it is with Gronkowski. What do you think?
I think that I think that Tampa Bay contenders. They have to be contenders. I think that is that Todd Bowles in the defensive end there, defensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Todd Bowles. I think that Todd Bowles' defense is good. He had a great scheme against Aaron Rodgers. That offense in Green Bay looked efficient. They looked efficient, and the Bucs were coming off an L to the Bears, which you just saw how we feel about them. And the Bucs whooped on the Packers. They had a great defensive game plan. They have great defensive pieces, and I think that, geez Louise, how can you bet against Tom Brady? You literally can't bet against Tom Brady. He won 6 Super Bowls, been to, 8 Super Bowls, 9 Super Bowls, 8 Super Bowls, 9. He's been to 9 Super Bowls, won 6. That's the best ratio of all time, 6 to 9 Super Bowls. Are you kidding me?
You bring a lot of great points. Next one is the Titans, with Derrick Henry being as he is, being the crown, the king of rushing last year. Looks like he's on that same pace again this year, again with Ryan Tannehill, being able to throw like he is, with that defense being pretty good. I do think these guys are pretenders. I don't think they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Why? Because, yes, they have a good rushing defense, but doesn't mean that rushing offense can't be stopped. As in, the Steelers will stop the rushing defense, as I've said. Best rushing defense in the NFL. If they do meet in the playoffs, the Steelers are going to whoop them. I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl.
I think that the Tennessee Titans AFC Championship, they made it there last year. I think Mike Vrabel is a great young coach in the AFC. I think now that we see, a little disciple of Bill Belichick, we see where they go and how they do all over the NFL. I mean, you look at coaches like Matt Patricia is not doing too hot. I mean, compared to Mike Vrabel, I think Mike Vrabel is a very good coach. I think he can really relate to his players, and I think that gives Titans the edge. Not necessarily for the Super Bowl, but definitely over a lot of other teams in the NFL. Like a team I see next to the Bills. I think you really saw what happened when the Titans played the Bills, and I think that in general, the Titans and that chemistry that Mike Vrabel has with the players. They have Gostowski now to kick field goals. He is clutch, as you know it. Tannehill can step up in big games, I feel like. A.J. Brown's a good deep threat playmaker. Derrick Henry's good. The defense is sustainable. All you need is a sustainable. If your defense gets hot at the right time, that's perfect. And I think they have the players capable of that. But realistically, coming out of the AFC, I think they're favorites above them. I think they're. Mm-hmm.
That is true. And the last team is the AFC Bills. With Josh Allen playing like he is, he had a bit of run-in with the Titans. I still think he's still pretty good. You have Devin Singletary, you have that stingy defense. You still have Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley. I still don't think they're good. They're good enough to be in the Super Bowl. I think they are still pretenders. I think they might have a chance at winning the division. I don't think they're going to make the Super Bowl, though.
I agree. I think that division is a little bit closer than people think. I mean, the New England Patriots have never really been September, October performers, if you even look in the days of Brady and Belichick. So I think the division is going to get a lot closer, and I think the Bills are really going to get tested. So I can't really commit too heavy on the Bills now. Looking back, from right now, I say no pretenders, but they have a lot of tests coming down the line here. They got to play the Steelers. They got to play the Patriots, and they got to play the Dolphins, who, I don't know, just decided to go with Tua. We'll see how that goes. We'll see if Fitzmagic makes his way over to the America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, and see if they can turn it around. But I think the Bills still have a lot to prove in the regular season for me to commit anything to think that they're contenders.
You got it right there. Well, that is it for the NFL part of the show. Jake Taylor, Joey Crissman, stay tuned because we've got more great stuff coming on. The Big Hit. Is that?
Worst bathroom to do that in this one.
I'm just gonna jerk it all onto the ground too. I'm not gonna.
All right.
You guys good?
Yeah, we're good. I think.
Just set it and forget it.
All right.
What are we talking about?
Welcome back to the Big Hit. Elliot Hicks and Kyle Scott here to go through the Major League Baseball postseason and talk about the World Series. Just a few short weeks ago, we were starting off with the wild card games, and now we're already into the World Series. Major League Baseball's postseason still flies by fast, even though it was expanded. So we're going to start our analysis with the Division Series games because none of the wild card scrubs were important enough to analyze. Plus, we just want to be time efficient. So in the Division Series, we had, of course, 4 matchups. The first one we'll touch on is the New York Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays. Of course, Tampa Bay, a heroic home run off of Aroldis Chapman late in the game. They came all the way back, won that series 3-2. Of course, Tampa Bay's in the World Series now as the AL representative. We're just going to go ahead and spoil that for you because if you didn't know that, then why are you watching the show? I don't know. Anyway, the point is, Rays beat the Yankees. Upset, not upset? What are your thoughts?
I don't think that counts as an upset. Mostly because the Rays won that division. It would have been an upset if the second place Yankees beat the Rays. But, I mean, culturally, maybe. Overall, maybe. The Rays definitely underdog in general for most of the time. But they're a strong team, you know. They didn't win 40 games off scrubs, you know.
I mean, they did play a few scrubs in that division, but I do see your point. I'll touch mostly on the Yankees here because we will talk about the Rays. because they are in the World Series. I think that this is extremely troublesome for the Yankees. This is the second year in a row that they've basically lost their postseason hopes just on the arm of Aroldis Chapman. They're paying Chapman a good bit of money. He's theoretically supposed to be one of the best relievers in the game. He sure can throw faster than most people. Only a handful of people can get up to 104 like Chapman can. But he's obviously declining. He's either declining or he's just extremely unlucky. But I don't think that the Yankees can keep their postseason hopes on guys like Aroldis Chapman much longer. And I mean, they went out, they splurged, they signed Garrett Cole. They've got the guys to do it. I think they just need a little more experience and a little more luck. They really just got kind of duped by this Rays team that was better than them in the regular season. But the Yankees just have too much talent to be like this. And I think they're probably going to have to call in for Aaron Boone's head within the next couple of years if they can't get to a World Series at the very least.
Yeah, I do agree with your point on Aroldis Chapman. I think his signing is more of a 2012 move, back when pitchers didn't throw 100 consistently. I mean, Garrett Cole throws 100 in his fastball. I mean, Jacob deGrom hits over 100 and his slider's 95, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, there's a difference between 100 and then like 104. And I mean, Chapman doesn't get that far otherwise, but yeah, he's not as special anymore, basically.
Yeah, he's not as special, and his fastball is losing velocity. He's using his secondary pitches a lot more, the changeup and the slider especially, to get batters out instead of the overbearing fastball back in the 2016 World Series or even back on the Reds. He's just not as effective anymore. I think if I was a Yankees fan, I'd be calling for Chapman's head before I called for Boone's.
Right. But either way, the Yankees need to make something happen fast because they're not going to put up with many more losses to these low payroll Rays. I think they're probably paying Garrett Cole more money than all of Tampa Bay's roster. But moving on to the next series, the Astros and the Athletics. The Astros came away with this one in 3 games, and I was kind of surprised that the A's lost this one. I mean, they were a very hot team. They probably were the better team, but I think this was a case just like someone else I'm going to talk about in the next series of that they are just a young team. They didn't quite have the experience to get it done, and they lost to this Astros team. I think the A's will stick around for some time to come. This just wasn't their year.
Yeah, it's never the A's year. Unfortunately for the A's, they consistently just kind of lose in the first or second round of the playoffs. And with this, where everyone plays in the wild card round, they had a chance to do something, but ultimately they just ended up like the A's always do. And that is actually an upset because the A's were the best AL team, I believe.
Best AL West team. Yeah, they were the number 2 seed.
Oh, okay.
Rays, I believe, were the number 1 seed. Yes, they were.
Yeah. The A's were a very, very strong team. I watched them a lot when I saw my Mariners play. I hated it. It was awful. So I thought they were going to go pretty far in the playoffs, and I just really wanted them to beat the Astros, but the Astros did something. I don't know. They beat them.
They did win a series. They got knocked out in the next round, but we're not done with the division series yet. Padres, Dodgers. I'm kind of surprised this wasn't a series at all. Obviously, the Dodgers have such a stacked team that we'll touch on in a couple of minutes. San Diego, I think, is kind of like Oakland. They should be around a while, and they should do pretty well, but this just wasn't their year. And they almost remind me a little bit of those Pirates teams in the mid-2010s that, you know, they made the playoffs, they looked great for a couple of years, and then it all just kind of fell apart. I mean, that was mostly just roster mismanagement by the since fired Neil Huntington and Clint Hurdle and all that staff. But the Padres, you know, they had their share of role players, their prospects, their stars, and they're going to have to keep that team intact and keep it going well to continue making the playoffs, because otherwise they could flame out and drop 20 games in a season, just like those Pirates did from 2015 to 2016.
Yeah, to me, the Padres remind me of the 2020 Blue Jays. They're a young team, a great core. They're going to go places eventually, but this is more of a learning curve year. They went up against the worst team to go up against in the playoffs, the number 1 Dodgers, of course. I'm not saying they had no chance, but I thought it was going to be a series too. They just got blammed, really. Not what I was expecting from Tatis and Hosmer and all those guys, but I mean, the Dodgers are the Dodgers, and they're going to play and they're going to win the games.
All right, and so for the 4th Division Series game, we barely have to touch on this. The Braves crushed the Marlins. Marlins didn't even have a chance. And I don't know what the hell the Miami Marlins were doing in the playoffs anyway. The only reason they made it there is because they had all that extra rest time, because they were the dumbest team and they were the first one to have a COVID outbreak. What was that, like the first or second week of the season? They already quit playing games. So it was that help that mostly got them to the postseason. That and the fact the National League was just a heaping pile of garbage this year other than the top 3 or 4 teams. That's what helped the Marlins. I mean, they did go out there, they beat the Cubs, right?
They beat the Cubbies.
They beat the Cubs, so that's worth something, but also not much because the Cubs were not very good this year. They got their World Series, they ended the curse. I don't think you'll see the Cubs back for another 100 years at this point anyway. But the Marlins shouldn't even been here. That's my takeaway, is the Marlins just kind of embarrassed themselves by even showing up.
Yeah, honestly, the only team from the NL East should have been the Braves. They should have just put another NL Central team or whatever. Just put the Pirates in. Who cares? It's the same. They don't matter. The Marlins were a waste of a playoff spot, and it's annoying that they beat the Cubs, frankly. And that wasn't even a series. We're talking about the Padres-Dodgers. That wasn't even a series. That was embarrassing. What was that, like 15-2?
Right.
One of those games? Jeez Louise.
I think that's one of the things about expanded playoffs, that they won't stick around because in a lot of years there are barely even 5 worthy playoff teams, let alone however many we had this year.
16.
We're going to run into this problem if they keep expanded playoffs. We don't need this many people in the Major League Baseball playoffs. I think the wild card series should be more than 1 game. That's the only change you need to make. Make that 3 games. Other than that, keep it as it is with 5 teams. Moving on to the LCS, both of these series went in to Game 7s. We'll start with the Rays knocking off the Astros, which was probably MLB's and all baseball fans other than Astros fans. This was their favorite series to watch because the Astros lost. They didn't get a chance to come back to the World Series. They had basically no punishment at all for any of those players for the 2017 scandal. Yeah, they had to fire their GM or fire their manager or whatever, but it's the players that this scheme really was hatched by. None of them got any punishment at all, and they came way too close to going to a World Series the year after we all found out about this. So we just have to be thankful for Tampa Bay that they were able to wipe these guys out.
Yeah. The fact that it went to 7 games is a travesty, especially considering how it started, 3-0 for the Rays. That also made it the series to watch because there's a chance that it was supposed to be an easy 4-game sweep, and then it's 3-1. All right, maybe it's a 5-game series. That's good enough. No, it's 3-2. That's weird. The Rays are great. The Astros are cheaters. They didn't even break 500 this season. What are they doing? 3-3. Oh my God. This isn't happening. They're not the Red Sox. This isn't how this works. And then the euphoria of the Rays winning is unmatched in recent playoff history to me. It's the culmination of everything from the offseason and the shortened season, the disappointment of the fans and everything from how Manfred has handled the scandal to how the season went. It's just the culmination of everything kind of going right.
So yeah, it was a great thing that the Astros lost. The other series was definitely a little closer. Atlanta team still blowing 3-1 leads though, still blowing big leads as the Dodgers came back to win that series. The Dodgers had the better team. That was basically unquestioned, but this Braves team looked really good, and I think this is a team that's going to stick around for a while. To the unfortunate nature of teams like your New York Mets, the Braves are going to stick around.
Yeah, the Braves are definitely going to stick around. They have way too many young guys to not stick around unless they want to be the Pirates of the NL East for some reason and just trade them all for no one. That's always an option, Atlanta. I'm not saying you should do it, but you should definitely do it. Maybe just trade everyone to the Mets. That's also an option. Just Acuna and give us back Darno or something. I don't know. You can have Stroman, who isn't a Met anymore. The Braves, yeah, they are the team in the NL East to watch. The Nationals got their ring. They're moving on. The Mets were never in it, and the Phillies are just a mess. And we're not talking about the Marlins. So
We already talked about the Marlins enough.
yeah.
But playoff baseball does continue to be hell for Pirates fans. Hell, we even had Steve Pearce win a World Series MVP a couple years ago. We still have Glass now starting. He started Game 1 of the World Series, and it did not go well. The Dodgers beat the Rays in that game 8-3. And I like the Rays a lot. I think this is a team, again, they're young. They found some absolute bargain chips. A guy like Randy Arozarena. Like, you ask anyone who wasn't a Rays fan or a super baseball writer, who the hell's Randy Arozarena? And they have no idea. Now he's been this. He won the LCS MVP.
Yeah.
The Rays just find these bargain chips out of nowhere. They resurrect a guy like Charlie Morton's career. I guess that was mostly with the Astros, but what the Rays have done has been pretty well, but I don't think they're a match for the Dodgers. We finally saw Clayton Kershaw not crap the bed in a playoff game. He did very well. Of course, he gave up a couple of runs, but he did what he needed to do for the Dodgers to win that game. I mean, of course, you couldn't put any loss on Kershaw because they won, so you can't put a loss on him when he wins. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing. I think that the Dodgers are going to come out on top in this series just because the team is stacked. They've been well overdue for a World Series. This is the third time in 4 years they've been there.
Yeah.
So there's really no reason the Dodgers cannot win this, and I think if you don't win this, again, it's a situation kind of like the Yankees where Dave Roberts has done a great job, but to come this close so many times and not manage to walk away with the Commissioner's Trophy, what's wrong?
Yeah. I think the overarching story of this postseason is Clayton Kershaw stripping away the playoff Kershaw stigma, reputation. Is he finally doing something in the playoffs other than giving up home runs back-to-back to Rendon and Juan Soto? And yes, he is. He's winning games, and he's pitching great. In Game 1, when Glasnow got taken out in the 5th inning, he went 4 1/3, 116 pitches. When Kershaw was pulled, 68. So he's being very efficient. He's making his spots. He's getting guys out. He's about to break Verlander's record for most postseason strikeouts. I think this one little blemish on his career is going to be kind of erased with this. What do you think?
Right, I think that you can basically sign, seal, and deliver his Hall of Fame ticket with this World Series ring if he manages to get it. Even if he doesn't, you still can't.
Yeah.
I mean, unless he happens to blow the entire game in his next start or whatever and bring back the stigma of playoff Kershaw, I think his Hall of Fame ticket is, like I said, signed, sealed, and delivered after this series, especially if they can get the World Series ring.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I want to say something. Game 2, you really can't discount my hometown hero, Blake Snell, from the Seattle area. I think he might be better than Walker Buehler. I don't know. And I will take Charlie Morton over a Dodgers bullpen game any day. I think the Rays take at least one of these 2 next games.
Hopefully it'll be a good series. I think that's all we're asking for. No matter who wins, we're just glad the Astros and Yankees aren't there, so we can be happy for that. For everyone here on The Big Hit, my name's Elliot Hicks. Thanks again for watching, and make sure to tune in next time.